Anybody know what this is? I'm going to tell you what it is. If you look at the center pole, you'll see it. Real light says the Freedom Tower. We used to call them the Twin Towers in New York City. And when they decided to build the new Freedom Tower, which just last week went live, Memorial Day, 1,776 feet tall, here's what they had to do. They had to dig down below street level. Most of you guys are just getting into the business. You haven't gone through the last 5 years. You've gone through the last 4, the last 3, the last 2. Some of you, this is your first conference. You'll hear a lot of people talk about this is a ground floor opportunity. Plexus is just now getting to the ground floor. That first 5 years was literally a hell. It was the growing pains. It was sitting in a little bitty office in Phoenix, Arizona saying, hey, is anybody going to show up? We got a great vision. Charles is a visionary. And Alec knows how to put it to work just like that. But they're sitting there saying, is this going to work? Are we going to make it? And they understood it was going to take some time to build the foundation. And they had to dig out a lot of crap to get there. And now you guys happen to be living proof of the building that they're building. This should be your Freedom Tower. This should be your time to change your life. Now think about this for a minute. Most of you only need $300, $400, $500 a month to give you a little bit of leeway, a little bit of breathing room, pay the bills. There's a reason that we have as many kids as we do. And it's not because I was a great success in network marketing. We made a lot of money. I married a romance writer. So I married somebody that understood how to be an entrepreneur herself. And no, she didn't write about me in the books except for the fight scenes, okay? But we understood that if we were going to build something together, it wasn't going to be easy. She didn't want me talking network marketing. I mean, we were married 5 years before I got to go to Christmas dinner because she was worried I'd start talking about the company I was in, okay? It took her a while to get it. But the Plexus products has allowed her to lose 20 pounds. And you know what? I remember at 17 when she walked up a ladder in front of me in those little bitty number 3 jeans. And she's looking pretty good in those jeans again too, okay? So this really does work, okay? But I want you to think about something. This here, everybody has seen all kinds of Greek and Roman ruins. And you'll see the roof's gone, you'll see the walls gone, but the pillars stand. They've sustained the test of time. And what you guys are going to be talking about for a long time is how you've withstood the test of time in Plexus. See, in all the years that I've studied companies, I was in the field for almost 15 years. Actually, I was with the first company for 15 years. My second company for 5 years before the owner sold it. And then I went into corporate. And we ran a company for 4 years and took it from $75 to $150 million a year. Most of the trainers in this business today came through that company because we were a support and training company for network marketing. We just happened to have a compensation plan attached to that. I've played every role there is. I've studied every company that we can study. I've looked at every court case that's out there. And what we're about to talk about is what it will take for you guys to take your business to the next level. I want to look at the first pillar. It's clarity. Think about this. Did you ever realize Washington, D.C. is full of pillars? Every building up there has a pillar in front of it. And the Washington Monument stands so tall and so clear, it's one of the first things you see when you're flying in. People trust a clear message, and they will mistrust an ambiguous message. If you're out there trying to talk about Plexus and you don't know what it is you're talking about, or you're hyping it, or you're not telling it quite the way it is, or you're not answering the questions correctly, if you haven't taken time to listen to what that prospect is asking you, they're not going to join your team and they're not going to buy the product. You have to be totally clear. So ask yourself this question. Have you truly crafted your purpose statement? Do you honestly know why you're doing this? And I'm not talking about hocus pocus. Oh, I want to be a millionaire. That comes with a lot of responsibilities too. I'm talking about deep in your gut. Why are you doing what you're doing? I've got a house being renovated. It's taken us 2 years to get where we're at now because I'm always on the road. But I have a clear, distinct focus on what it is we're doing. When Paige calls and says, honey, we need to put the floor down in the kitchen. No, it ain't time yet. We got to do the master bedroom first. Everything's clear. You have to have a clear, focused message. Do you give clear expectations to your team? You've got Mary Ann that just came into this company. Thank goodness, because man, there's some ugly guys running it for a while. So at least we got a female up there now, okay? She knows her stuff. She's gonna be helping you guys, but you've got to give clear expectations to your team. If you don't know where you're going, how the heck are they gonna know where they're going? You've got to be totally clear on what you're doing. Here's another one for you. Are you totally clear on what it is you're supposed to be doing daily? I used to hate to pick up the telephone, call prospects. When I was running my business hard, we'd go through 800 to 1,000 leads a month, always on the telephone. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have Facebook. And I used to hate that. So I'd make up all kinds of stuff I had to do. Got to clean the desk, got to clean the office. Honey, do you need anything? Anything but to pick up the phone. And I wasn't making a dime. See, once I started getting down the actual task that I needed to accomplish, we started making money. We started changing lives. We started to see things grow. One of the earliest people on my team just didn't get it. But today she's a top leader in another company. Because one day it clicked with her too. And her daily tasks started lining up with her purpose. The clarity got there. And all of a sudden her team started to grow. And here's another thing that happened with this young little lady. I'm not going to tell you the company's name. But right when she got ready to hit what you guys would call diamond, my best friend since I was in high school, her husband, diagnosed with 2 brain tumors. Oh. Knocked the wind out of her. But yet her team rallied around them. And the whole time that he was going through his surgeries, the whole time she couldn't build her business because she was distraught, her volume went up. Because she had taught them clarity all the way through. You've got to have clarity. Second pillar, compassion. I used the Lincoln Memorial for this because I'm just a redneck from the South, and Lincoln did some stuff right during a time period, and he showed compassion. So I wanted to use the Lincoln Memorial. See, people put faith in those who care beyond themselves. Something that President Lincoln did that we haven't seen presidents do in a long time. He made the Secretary of Defense. He gave that position to somebody that he really didn't like, and who had publicly just made all kinds of comments about him. But he made him his Secretary of Defense because he said, I know he'll do the best job. He put his own personal agenda aside. He said, this is the best person for this. So you've got to ask yourself a question. If your business isn't growing, is it because of you? Is it because you're not showing the compassion? I'm talking about sympathy here. I'm talking about compassion. Are you listening to what the needs of your team are? Or are you just seeing them as another number? Now, sometimes we just do that and we don't mean to. We get busy. We're wanting to rank up. We're wanting to get our rank back. We're wanting to be somebody. And we're not as compassionate as we're supposed to be. Or worse yet, we're having a tough time at home and we don't want anybody to know. And when we see somebody on our team and their life seems to be great, we get frustrated. Paige went through that. I just told you I adopted 2 grandkids. My sons were very competitive, but they also didn't listen to Dad. Had babies very, very young with some really quirky little girls. So we ended up with 2 beautiful babies. It was during this time period my wife met Candy Mernon, because Paige kept saying, honey, can we just adopt? Can we just adopt? I said, I don't want to adopt. I don't think I can love babies if they're not mine. I just don't know. One night, late, I'm working, she's asleep. How many know who Stephen Curtis Chapman is? Okay. I heard him do an interview on Fox News talking about adopting. So I wake her up and she's like, no, honey, I got a headache, leave me alone. You know, it's not that, okay, wake up. You know. I said, look, I don't know if I can do this. Just don't know, babe. But I'm willing to try. For her, I was willing to try. I was being compassionate. I got a pretty deep faith. God doesn't like me. So the next thing I know, instead of adopting, I got 2 grandbabies living under the roof. Okay. But here's the cool thing. I have watched my wife take those 2 little baby girls and raise them as if they were her own. I've watched her love their mom and love their dads. She never turned her back on the mothers of these kids. She never pretended she was something that she wasn't, because the compassion that I gave her passed on to them. And that's what you've got to do to your team. That's what you've got to do. And Charles talked about this, not at this one, but at a different meeting today. He talks about the people that leave Plexus. I don't care how they leave Plexus. You still need to be compassionate. You don't need to go on Facebook and bad talk them and talk down to them or anything else, because you don't know what they're going through. And they might have gone through something that was so stupid that they acted dumb and they left. But what if you were nice? What if you showed compassion? And what if in a few months they called you up and said, can I come home? See, that's what compassion will do. If you listen and don't talk, you will hear the heart of the individual, whether it's a prospect, whether it's an ambassador. The theme of this convention is one Plexus. That doesn't just mean one Plexus if you're an ambassador. That means one Plexus, period. Customers, vendors, people that aren't in the business. They need to know what you stand for. This company stands for purpose. You saw James's video. It wasn't all the compensation plan, and we're all here to make money. So let's not pretend we're not. But you can't just be here to make the money. If you don't believe, it won't work. You've got to be engaged with your people in their life. I used to have a leader of mine tell me, Troy, you're not a marriage counselor. You're not a psychologist. You don't nurture people. I said, dadgum, man, that's why we don't make all the money and the women do. Okay? Because that's what they do. 70%, almost 80% of this business is made up of females. And you want to know something? It's not the men in this industry that make all the money. They just talk about it. I've got great friends in this business that make a heck of a lot of money, and they are females. And here's what they've done. Network marketing and the company they're with, they love them. But a few of them have bought real estate, started other businesses with their kids, bought resorts on little islands. They took the money that was driving them through helping their teams grow. And they invested it to create a legacy for their family. Think about that. If you're showing compassion to your people, they will show compassion to their people. You want real duplication? Then start in the heart. Don't start in the pocketbook.
Amen.
That's how you're going to do it. Third pillar, character. Guys, this is a big one. I could have used an iceberg, I guess, if I wanted to here. See, your character, about 90% of who you are is never seen by the public. It's the people it's what's underneath. It's what happens when nobody's watching. It's what happens when you're at a conference and your spouse is at home. It's when your kids aren't watching, or when you don't think they're watching. See, your people that you're going to be talking to are going to know very quickly what your character's like. This old myth of the 80s, fake it till you make it, doesn't work. Unless you were at last night's gala, where there was some beautiful women that looked like they were multi-millionaires the way they were dressed, okay? But in reality, you can't do this. See, people notice people who do what's right and not what's easy. You got to do what's right. That means you don't go buying a bunch of volumes, try to rank up before the end of the month, and then it's sitting in somebody's garage. It also means you don't try to duplicate what somebody else is doing without knowing fully what it is they're doing. Because if all you're trying to do is plagiarize something, you know what's going to happen? You're not going to make it, because it's not here. You've got to look at who you are. What do you want to build? What do you want to leave? And I just realized there's like 6,500 people in here. That's like 13,000 eyeballs, and that's really just a freaky thought. Okay? I was going to picture everybody naked until they showed Coach's picture, and that wouldn't work either, so not going there. Character. Think about this. Who do you admire? Who is it in history, who is it today that you say, wow, I'm impressed with their actions. I'm impressed with how they are. I'm going to use a little controversy, just because my wife has texted me all day long, just frustrated. When you've got a family and you've got 3 adult kids, 2 teenage daughters, a 12-year-old that was a Father's Day present, and then 2 granddaughters, okay? You're not the perfect parents. I mean, things get messy. And you sit there sometimes and you watch stupid TV, especially if you're a romance writer, because, oh, look at this, it's so beautiful. Look at this family. And for I don't know how many years, she's watched the show 19 Kids, the Duggars that are all over the news right now. Now, this is where character comes in, so just bear with me. I'm not going down a rabbit trail. She texts me after their controversy comes out. And here's what she says. I was judging myself based on fiction. I was looking at somebody else's character, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, why can't I be the perfect mom? Why couldn't I raise my kids perfectly? See, character always comes to the surface sooner or later. If you've got a flaw, if you've got a strength, no matter what it is, it will come out. And then our first tendency is to judge somebody else against our character. Your teams are going to judge you based on your character. If they see you acting a certain way, but then after you leave the conference and you're over at one of the clubs and you're acting different, that's going to be noticeable. What makes you think that the person that you admire is so special? What makes you think you couldn't be like that person if they're real? I've had the opportunity to meet John Maxwell and work with his team for the last 15 years. He is, in private, what you see in public. I know his son-in-law, we've hung out together. He's one of my heroes. I know how he is. You've got people here in Plexus. There's one man in Plexus that over the last few years I've got to know. I've got to know as a professional, I've got to know his wife. I've got to know what makes them tick. I've stayed in their home. He's become a mentor of mine because I see how he is behind the scenes. Thank you, Jerry. When you see how people are, you can look up to them. People on your team want to look up to you. Character is the third pillar, and if you don't have it, the other pillars can start to tip. Character may be the most important of all the pillars. Ask yourself this: what's character mean to you? Do you actually believe that character exists today with what we see on TV, with what we see in politics, with what we see in religion? I'm 51 years old, grew up in the 80s and watched every TV evangelist fall. At least that's what it felt like. You will have your belief system stretched. But if you stand firm on your character, you can build a Plexus business no matter what adversity you go through, and your families will benefit from that. When you go home tonight, you need to think of something. You need to write down what your 5 top values are in life. And then you need to live by them. Plain and simple. Never falter. Just stay true. Because that's going to be the basis of where you build your character. 4th, competency. Man, this goes back to that fake it till you make it. People have confidence in those who will stay fresh, they stay relevant, and they stay capable. If I got up here on stage and said, here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go over to this website. I want you to buy 1,000 leads. I want you to pick up the phone, and I want you to make calls. Or worse yet, if I went back one more generation in network marketing, I'd say, look, I want you to buy this leads. They've got all fax numbers, and I want you to spam the snot out of their fax machines. Okay? You wouldn't listen. Y'all get up and leave. See, if you want to grow a team and lead a team, then you have to have competency. You've got to be constantly watching what's going on, what's working, what's so powerful about the testimonials that you're going to see. How's the products changing other people's lives? I don't get paid to use these doggone products. Hey, Al, will you send me some products? Let me try this stuff. And crying out loud, I've tried everything else. That's why my hair fell out, I think. I don't know. I got on the products. No results. Not at all. I thought, man, this sucks. They want to be clients, and I don't know if the product's working. But when I went to the website and I saw average, everyday people having success, here's what I knew. It's not the product. I must be doing something wrong. It's plain, clap, that's the way it is. So I sat down and looked at what I was doing. Get up at 5 o'clock, go to Starbucks. I live in Florida, don't care much about hot coffee, but that Venti double chocolate chip with strawberries was pretty good. Sitting there reading the Wall Street Journal. I felt like I was somebody, and I was getting that way too, okay? That was at 5 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, I headed on down the road to Harbor Docks to sit out there and drink a cup of coffee and watch the dolphins play in the harbor and have a fisherman's special with hash browns, Kaneka sausage, and eggs. Oh man, I forgot to take that Plexus thing. I'll do that later. I wasn't like the young lady up here that didn't miss 500 days in a row or whatever it was. I realized I had a 30-day deal and I'd use one little, no wonder it didn't work, you know. See, that's what happened. I couldn't tell you about, all I could say about Plexus is, man, I don't know how it works, but it's sure working. Look at all these people. And it was. Testimonials. I mean, doggone, Mississippi was rocking and they were #1 in obesity. And then Plexus shows up and they're #2. Give yourselves a hand. Woo! Listen, when you start learning about this business, when you become a student of what this business is about, what this company is about, what makes the company tick, what makes your upline tick, when you become a student, this is a dirty 4-letter word. When you become a student of sales, and you start learning that everything in your life is about sales. I don't want this cockamamie crap. Oh, I'm just sharing. I'm just going to share with them something. Yeah, I can just see that. 17 years old, I'm sharing with my wife, honey, you look pretty. I didn't share with her. I said, I want you barefoot and pregnant and 5 kids. Okay? I wasn't sharing nothing. I was letting her know what I wanted. She was gone the next day. I was going to go to college, left town. Took me another 4 years to get her to say yes. Now she lives at the beach. She's always barefoot. I started to say always pregnant. That was a long time ago. We don't do that stuff no more. Well, we don't do the pregnancy stuff anymore. Listen, you have to know your business. Who have you been mentored by? And if you don't have a mentor, if you don't have somebody that's your coach, forget about a trainer. Listen, it took me a long time to realize what's the difference between a trainer and a coach. What's the difference between some motivational speaker and an inspirational speaker? Here's what I learned about a coach. They will kick you in the butt. They will tell you exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, the way you need to do it, and then send you in the direction you need to go. You need a coach. You need somebody that's going to mentor you. If you don't have one, find one. I'd had a lot of success in this business. I was married to the same girl for years. Still am. But we made a pact. After 4 kids, if you leave me, you're taking them all. We've worked out everything ever since. Okay? It is perfect. But now think about this. Who are you being mentored by? 2009, on our radio show, I had an author send me in a book. I thought the book looked pretty cool. He had a bunch of my heroes from network marketing that had written little testimonials. I thought this would be great. I opened up the first chapter. Read the first chapter. Thought this isn't very motivational. Read the second chapter. And then I put it down and started thinking. I'm pretty messed up, and this guy knows it. I read his whole book. Then we did a radio series on each chapter of that book. And I shared how my life had been impacted by that book. And the author called me on the phone and said, "Are you looking for somebody to be a coach?" I said, "I am." And for 1.5 years before he moved back to Australia, every Thursday morning for 1.5 hours, we would be on the phone together, mentoring me, listening to my objections, listening to my excuses, listening to my stupidity. But 1.5 years later, my marriage was better. My relationship with my kids was better. My business exploded because one man who had character, showed me compassion, was competent in what he was doing, said, "I just want to be your coach and I'm not going to charge you for that." Now I got to coach him too because he didn't know who Jesus was. And I'm not going to go down that trail here. But we had some awesome conversations. We had some great times together. He's a little older than me, he's 58, married just the cutest little thing, but she was from Australia. So he said, I'm taking her home. They were my first international client, went over to Australia, started a network marketing company. But he always had a dream that had never been fulfilled in his whole life. He wanted a baby. And they tried and they tried and they tried. And he sent me a Skype the other day and said, I got my first recruit. And I'm calling him Junior. And shows me a picture of his baby. See, when you start showing people the right stuff, when you start getting your life in order, all kinds of things can happen. Now, I didn't help him have the baby, but I tell you what, he's got at least something there rolling for him. You have to do this, guys. Listen, I'm not up here, and we're having fun, but I'm serious. You want to change your business, you do what Taro, I hear him say this all the time. I just love him because, give him a round of applause. It's Taro that started this thing, okay? You brought it where it is, but he's the one that had the vision. Now listen, he's always saying this. And you want to know, somebody asked earlier today, they were having one of those leadership things that y'all wish you could be too, but you know, you didn't sneak in, and I could have showed you how to get in here and you're going to listen. But here's the deal. Somebody asked him, what do you do in your fun time when you're not working? We own an investigation company too, so we just investigate everybody. And here's what he does. I'll tell you what he does. He shows up in Vegas to a big industry event because he hears some of the leaders are going to be there. And he tells them, thank you for being students in the business. Thank you for still learning, because that's what he was doing. He was learning. When there's a big conference where his peers are at, he shows up because he wants to learn. He wants to be as competent as he can be. Alec Clark is somebody that, just a dear friend, him and his wife. If you met his wife, awesome lady, awesome lady. You know, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't think he was real. I know. Now, listen, I've watched him before Plexus. Go out, give ideas, give his all to a company, try to help them, try to be part of the team, try to lead them the way they need. Think about it. This is pretty rocking. I mean, crying out loud, I was at the second convention and nobody knew who I was. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, I got to eat some great New Orleans food. Nobody came up and bugged me. I mean, it was awesome. No pictures. I mean, it was great. But the room was the size of the store. And now you're filling this thing up with thousands of people. And it's because Alec had that dream back then. He was sharing, oh, this is the idea. Here's how stupid I am. Listen, I've made some mistakes, but this has got to be the worst. We're sitting in the conference room, and they said, Troy, we want to start a car program. What do you think we should do? Now, I'm a redneck, and at that time, 75% of the company was from Mississippi. I didn't even know if they could spell Lexus, let alone Plexus, okay? So I'm sitting there, I said, hey, you know what I'd do? I'd go to the biggest Mississippi Ford dealer and I'd get trucks. I'd have them give away trucks. You know? That's why Alec has the job that he has, okay? You see Ford and Plexus, it don't even rhyme, okay? And I didn't even know they had a Lexus dealership in Mississippi. I mean, that was the weird thing. You know, listen, you've got a crew here that are some of the most competent men I've ever met. I've met a lot. But the company that Alec tried to help and wouldn't listen to his guidance, which really allowed Taro to get a great partner and for you guys to get somebody that understands this industry. That company almost did $1 billion in 1 year. Almost. And a judge last week approved the foreclosure of that company for $15 million. It went like this, and it went like that. The two guys you've got running your company understand that what goes up could come down. And that's why you've got the advisory board that they just introduced to you, is because they listen to the field. They call up and ask questions. They want to know who's in charge of the company, and it's you. They just run it. But it's you guys that are doing it. And if you show competency to your team will grow. It isn't going to go exponentially like this. It's going to look like a heartbeat. Up, down, up, down, up, down. If you screw it up, it looks like a heart attack. Okay? You're going to have to work at it. Put a mastermind group. Think about this. If they've got a mastermind group and they call it the advisory council or whatever they call it, why don't you have one? Why don't you have an advisory group? Now, Sarah Marble, I think, has an advisory group because when I watched her documentary, she's got her mom, she's got John, she's got the girls, she's got everybody. I mean, you look, it's just this happy-go family, and it's like they're all doing Plexus, I think. You know, it's like, it's one of those, it's like, dadgum. And Celeste is no better. I mean, she's got everybody in the school. It's like, oh yeah, come on, let's just do the school thing, and everybody, I mean, but you gotta have a mastermind. Talk to your mom, talk to your dad. Talk to your I don't care who it is. Get somebody and say, hey man, can you just be, I've got a client and he pays me over here 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock. If you're in leadership, you know I have work hours. But the mastermind is over here. And I left them backstage, but I carry 2 phones. One's business and one's personal. He never calls me after 10 o'clock at night with anything on business. But he knows that he can call me after 10 o'clock at night to say, hey, I got something I want to talk to you about. And it's always a personal item. If anybody tells you don't mix personal with pleasure, with business, screw that. Okay? It's all one thing. Okay? Period. Let's look at the 5th pillar. Commitment. Next to character, commitment is the biggest thing. You can screw it up more than once. But if your team sees that you are die-hard committed, they'll stick with you through thick and thin. People believe in those who stand through adversity. It's not easy. It's going to be tough. There's going to be days you want to quit. You're going to be surrounded by dull, negative, disillusioned crybabies. But if you just stick it out and you commit to this, then you're going to make it. But I also want to say something. If your heart's not in it, if you don't believe, if you think it's a bunch of hype, then don't let the door hit you in the butt. And that's not quitting, that's changing. Because if you're not here for the right reason, if you're dragging your team down, then you're dragging yourself down. And all you're going to do is go whine on Facebook. Plexus doesn't work. Network marketing sucks. I want a beer. I mean, it's just, that's all it's going to be. So you got to be committed. You guys have it so easy. You whine. And I mean this in a good way, but I know networkers, I live with them. You whine, I wish we had better videos. I wish we had more videos. I wish we had more, well, you won't call it marketing collateral. You'll say, I wish we had better brochures. When this company was launched, they didn't have nothing. Nothing. But yet, people sitting right where you are today were committed. They tasted the drink, and they said, I'm in. Some of them that I'm going to interview tomorrow hated network. I don't want network marketing. What was it? She said, I don't want any more candles or something like that. It was, it's like, it's one of those things. And listen, when I was building my business, I didn't sell products. I couldn't sell myself out of a white pepper bag with a product. But I sold something better. Life insurance. Okay? And I was so proud of working with Primerica because, I mean, man, we were the rebels. We were taking on an industry. I was 18, 19 years old, fresh in the Marine Corps, trying to tell my dad, hey man, you need life insurance. Shut up. I'm not buying life insurance from you. But I was committed. I didn't quit. It wasn't the 90-day madman cycle and I was rich. It wasn't my good friend Richard Brooks' book, The 4-Year Career. It was 15 years ago full time. It was hard. My best leaders would quit. Oh, nobody's gone through that, have they? Okay. Oh, I'm just committed. I love it. You guys are great. Hey, Troy, there's this new shiny token over here. You want to join? No? Man, did you hear what they wrote about us? Yep. What do you think, squirrel? Doesn't matter. Let's just keep going. It's hard to find a company today that's run like Art Williams ran that company. But every time a negative article came out, he'd print it. And then right beside it, he'd print the results. For almost 10 years, the insurance industry came after him and the rest of us that were in the field building that company. And in that time period, he went before Congress, went before every state AG, went before the insurance commissioners, protecting what he called his termites, those part-time people. The industry of life insurance changed. You didn't used to have a license, and they made it so you had to have a license because of what Primerica did. And the only time that he lost a case was in the state of Kansas on a marketing piece that he forgot to put for training and educational purposes only. That's why I harp on these guys all the time. Man, don't show those income claims unless you say for educational purposes and training only. One time. But he never backed down because he was committed. Because he knew his why. And the rest of us did. We weren't selling life insurance. We're selling hope and opportunity. You're not selling some little pink drink. You're selling a life-changing event. Somebody lost how many pounds? 100 and some odd pounds she lost. I was sitting in Mississippi with a lady that was trying to, how many she had lost? 300? I mean, it was amazing. When you look at the testimonials, people lost weight. People had their blood sugar, I can't say that. People had other stuff, okay, that worked. See, I'm not even in the company and they're gonna fire me if I'm not careful, okay? Listen, you've gotta be committed. How are you gonna show trust and loyalty to your team? Think about this for a second. If you're committed to changing people's lives, you should be committed with changing your first, second, and third level. I'm not going to talk about the fourth level till tomorrow. See, if you start changing the lives of the people on your first, second, and third level, they're going to start duplicating what you're doing. All of a sudden, it's going to go down 4, 5, and 6 levels. And then some whacked out nutcase is going to say, I quit. And all of a sudden that person on your 7th, 8th level moves up to your 6th or 7th. All of a sudden leaders that you never knew are going to produce. And you're going to be sitting there in the audience someday and you're going to look up on stage and one of them's going to say something that they learned from you. And that's when you know you're committed. That's when you know that you're starting to duplicate people. You do the same thing with your customers. If somebody says, it didn't work for me. Man, what were you doing? Tell me how you were taking it. Are you getting any energy back? Are you walking more? What are you doing? It worked for me. That didn't work like it. I didn't lose a bunch of, I still got 80 pounds I want to lose. Well, maybe not. But here's what I know. If I didn't travel as much and eat as many ribeyes at 9 o'clock as I usually do, I lost more than the weight that I'd lost. So now I'm walking more. I didn't take the shuttle over here. I walked. Because that little girl that I married at 17, well, actually I started dating her at 17, married at 22. I'd really like to be around to see those 2 7-year-olds graduate from high school. And to do that, I know I've got to change my life. And that's what you've got to do. If you're going to be committed, it's going to take sacrifice. Paige texted me while I was sitting back there. And she said, I got a question for you. She goes, would it be a waste if we went ahead and signed a year's lease on a beach house? Because I told you, I'm renovating the house. She doesn't want to move back in. She may never move back in at this rate. Okay. Now, the way she worded it, honey, will this be a waste? So I wrote her back, because I'm committed to what's best for her. And I said, you know, it would only be a waste if I'm not going to have a more relaxed and loving wife. So her next text was, I really need this. And then one of those little smiley faces with the hearts. And then she wrote with her, I learned this word, it's a big word, it's called ellipsis. It's those three little dots. I married a romance writer. And then she put, so do you. And I said, okay. You've got to be committed, and you've got to listen, and you've got to be willing to sacrifice. And this is why she wrote this. Most people, where they lease a house is reasonable. But we live in Destin, Florida. So the only time rent is reasonable is when nobody wants to be there, okay? So she's wanting to lease a house today. This is the week after Memorial, or 2 weeks after Memorial. We were at maximum capacity on that island at Memorial Day. A house on the beach doesn't go for a few $1,000s a month. So I'm scared to death. She's gonna write more than one more book this year, I can tell you that, okay? But you've gotta be willing to sacrifice for your team, for your family, for your people. I am on the road as much as I am because I've got a 7-year-old daughter. I just love saying that. Okay, I got a 7-year-old daughter who is a phenomenal gymnast. I've got another one that's an excellent dancer. And when they said, hey, can we do this? I was dumb enough to say, what's it cost? And they thought I meant, how much does it cost to go to the gym? And that's just a couple $100 a month. But if you've ever seen gymnastics, it's worse than buying a bikini for a girl. Because they have to have a different Leo, that's short for leotard, okay, for every practice. And then they gotta have a different one for every competition. And it costs money. Now, this is coming from a guy that asked his wife to marry him at 17, wanting 5 kids by the time we were in our 20s, and we would be empty nesters by the time we were in our 40s. And I had to learn a valuable lesson about the difference between sacrifice and not sacrificing. Because at the rate I'm going, if she finds another one of these little grandgirls, I could be 100 and still raising kids in that house. But you've got to commit. But then you've got to be able to look at your team and say, what are we in this for together? Something that I've always admired about you guys is that every leader I've ever met in this company, from the pioneers that helped pave the way to the freshest leaders here today, from watching the documentaries on YouTube, from meeting them in person, not one have I heard say, I did this. Every one of them have said, I wouldn't be here now if my team hadn't rallied, if my team wasn't with me, if I didn't have this on my team. Leadership starts at the top. And if Tarl and Marianne and Alec and the rest of the crew back here wasn't committed to the leaders and committed to you, then the leaders wouldn't be committed to you either. You've got something here that isn't going to work perfect all the time. They're going to screw it up sometimes. Something's going to break. Comp plan's not going to work. Back office is going to be trash. I don't care what the excuse is. If you stick it out, you can make it. Because you're going to be lured away for easy money. Somebody's going to see it on Facebook and say, hey, I see you're kind of a cool leader over there at Plexus. I got something better. You can make more money. Our product works better. Let me tell you something. Grass may look greener, but it's just as hard to mow. It's not easy over there either. Okay? And every time you quit and start all over, it puts you back at least 6 months. And here's what else it does. You start losing trust with your people on your team. I've got a man in this business. We've become friends. Grew his income in the late 90s, early turn of the century, to somewhere in the neighborhood, on average, between $500,000 and $800,000 a month. Grew up in the hoodie area of Atlanta. Wanted to change the hood, as he puts it. So he started giving while he was making all that money. And he'd buy cars for the people. He bought a school. He cleaned up houses, loved his mama, loves his kids, loves everybody around him. Although he never forgot where he was born, he forgot where he came from and never saved a dime. Got sideways with the company a few years ago. Their number one income earner, and he decides they owe him more because he's not taking care of his own house. And he decided his commitment was done. And in the last few years, has joined over 10 different companies. And his excuse, couldn't make any money. It's not that he couldn't make any money. He wasn't committed to changing his own self. And little by little, his team has disappeared. You've got to have commitment. You've got to be a willingness to accept the responsibility for your failures. And you've got to be willing to give the credit to your team for your successes. Because without them, you'd just be out taking a walk. You wouldn't be leading anybody. Sixth, connection. You've got to be willing to connect with people. Think about this for a minute. People want to follow, buy, and hang out with their friends. This goes back to trust. Very first word I said. You are going to have buyer's remorse from every doggone person you come in contact with if you're not connecting with them at the heart level. Four-letter word people don't want to talk about. I think I used it at the leadership event. I just love this word. Love. If you want to build an organization in this industry, in this company, then you better start loving on your people. And if you don't know what I mean, then you get back to the hotel room. Now, most of these hotels don't have this TV channel. You go back home and you go to Netflix and you start watching every episode of Undercover Boss. And you especially look at the one for Silver Dollar City. Okay? Because you start to see that when you get out of your ivory tower as a successful Plexus ambassador, a new gym, and start realizing where you came from, you'll start connecting with people, you'll start making friends on your team, and all of a sudden, just like my friends, when it feels like the world is falling down around you, your team will rally around for you. Jim Dordan is one of the most successful networkers in history. Runs Network 21 in Amway. When his baby was born, he was born with spina bifida. I think I said that right. They had to have over, I think it was 10 surgeries in the first year. Digging deep, trying to save their son's life. And because they had put so much energy, so much sacrifice, so much love into their team, Their income doubled that year. And they were worried about their children, but their team was worried about them. That's what you want to build here at Plexus, is a team that will love you all the way to the top because they know you're loving them all the way to the top. They know that you want them to rank up. And listen, you want to be a diamond, that's great, but you need to produce double diamonds, because that is when you know that you've started to leave a legacy. You've made the connection with people. When you don't connect with people, they quit, they leave, they find excuses. Some of them leave for the right reason too. Just because somebody leaves Plexus doesn't mean that's a bad thing. There's some people you don't want here. They need to go somewhere else. But you need to connect with the right people. Ask yourself this: how are you intentionally trying to connect with every person on your team? And that includes your customers. I had a large Primerica business. I was in the top 10% of income earners in my second company, which was a breakoff from Primerica. And I'll never forget, out of all those years, one event that shows connection. I'd sat down at a house, really weird house. It was round. Guy just doesn't like tornadoes, so he built a round house. And it was the first time I'd ever gone into a person's bathroom and there was a urinal. All they had was boys, and Mama didn't like sitting on a stool seat. Well, you know the rest. Okay. So it was a really weird house. But I sat down, I shared with him what I was doing. We looked at all of his policies. We studied what he'd been doing to leave something for his family in case of an untimely death. Wrote it all up. Stayed in contact. It's not like Plexus. I didn't have no auto ship. You know, I mean, that's a policy gonna last for 15 years. But I'd call him, we'd hang out, we'd chat, we'd talk. And one day Lois, his wife, calls me and says, Dan passed away last night. And I just wanted you to know so you could start the paperwork so I could get his life insurance. I said, okay. Went to the funeral, did everything. Got the paperwork all done. She signed it, sent it in. Company sends me back the check. I make an arrangement to go out and talk to her. Slid the check over to her. We chatted for a minute, and then she stops and she said, I need you to take that check back. I said, why? She said, because Dan said he trusts you with our money and he wants you to invest it for me. That's connection. You have to make connection with your customers just like you do your ambassadors. That customer may never want to join this business. But if they love you and they love the product and you've shown you care about them, then when they run across somebody that's hungry, looking for a job, that's what they're always doing. They don't want looking for an opportunity, they're looking for a job. She's gonna say, I don't know if this will work for you, but I know somebody that might have an opening. Or they come across somebody that's got some health issue. I don't know if this will work for you, but you need to call so-and-so, because they know you care. It's not all about the money. I do more pro bono work for distributors than we ever charge. The reason we do that is because we know that when we sow back into the lives of individual entrepreneurs, that will come back to benefit us. You guys are what makes this company tick. You're what makes this whole industry tick. Network marketing is not a bad thing. It just had some pretty radical, wild people that are in it. Just like being a doctor, or just like being an attorney, or just like being on Wall Street, or anything else you can think of. You should be proud to say, I'm a Plexus ambassador. So how can you intentionally connect with people? How can you collaborate with them? How can you help build their lives up? I challenge you for the next 90 days to focus on making connection with your team. Not with the easy ones. Hey, girlfriend, let's go out. I'm talking about that dull, negative, disillusioned whiner on your team. That one that every time you talk to him, there is something that he, oh my gosh, why'd I call him? You start connecting, listen to what they're having to say, find out what the issue is. I had my son get ticked off. He runs my tech company. Livid at one of our clients. He sends me a text and it's like, good Lord, son, I can't let your mom see this. Okay, I mean, he was mad. You need to terminate, just fire them, give them back their money. Dude, chill out. Call the client on the phone. Hey man, I'm in Arizona, I'm working, but I know that you got an issue. What's the issue? We talk through the issue. I figure out what his issue is. I called Dalton back and said, dude, this was simple. You just got to listen, son. You got to connect with them. Don't get irritated. You're the pro. You're the one that knows what you're doing. So when you're downline who's frustrated, who's not having any success, doesn't want to talk positive all the time, you need to find out deep inside what's wrong and connect. As soon as I told Dalton what the issue was, he goes, oh man, that's my bad. Yeah, it was, but I didn't tell the client that. I just told the client, I fully understand, I apologize, we'll take care of it. A lot of times, your downline's issues are with you and you don't know it. And here's why. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. Here's why. You've got up on the wrong side of the bed. And you're not in the best of moods either. And they probably texted you because nobody calls on the phone anymore. And because your emotional state was already in a snippy state, you looked at the text and read total emotions into it that weren't there. And that just sets off this whole roller coaster ride. See, you've got to be willing to connect with that person on your team that's the most frustrating, not because they're going to change, but because you're going to change. You're going to become somebody new. And I challenge you for the next 90 days to take time to start focusing and connecting with everybody on your front level. And if you say, Troy, I only have one person, all right, then go find a second one and put them on your second level. Okay? Help them build something. Go do something right. That's what's going to make it work. Let's go to the seventh pillar, contribution. Now, this is something that I've seen from this company and to the Plexus leaders. Every documentary I watched, here's what I heard. We've made enough money, we were able to give back. We were able to go on a mission trip. We were able to help the school. We were able to do something. I talked about Dalton. At 12 years old, he started his 16, then we did it at 18. 16 years old, Sheila and Ray know what Katrina did. We live on a beach, and my son starts a nonprofit so that he could help other people that weren't as fortunate as we are to still have a house. Went around getting vendors to give him shirts and anything they had. We went over to Bay St. Louis, I think, and helped a couple whose water had gone to their roof. I'm looking at this thinking, that's a lot of water. And then I see what happened to their house, and it's like, that was a lot of water. Nothing in it for him. At 18 years old, had a single mom who had a weird boyfriend. I mean, nobody's ever had a weird boyfriend, have they? You know, guy gets mad, burns their apartment down. Just bad. So he goes and he starts a whole rally to get them free clothes and free furniture and free everything. All just wanted to give back. At 9 years old, he started going to a leadership conference started by John Maxwell called Catalyst. First year, he was the youngest attendee. I had to drag him in. He got in trouble with mom, so he had to sit with me. I mean, it wasn't like he wanted to be there. Okay. 15 years later, he now is one of 7 people that facilitates that conference once a year with 15,000 attendees and 300 volunteers. No money. It's his part of giving back. When you're willing to give back, you can change people's lives. Cassie, who's my 19-year-old, leaves next week for Guatemala for a month. 2 years ago, it was for 1 week. Not with a church group, not on a mission trip. It's because 2 years ago in 1 week, she fell in love with the children in a Guatemala orphanage. And every year has raised her own money to be able to go serve for a month in that orphanage for those kids. You need to find whatever you've got here that you can contribute to, and that may include your team members. Find out what they're going through in their life. That's what's going to matter. 8, consistency. People love to see the little things done consistently. Your actions, your words, everything. That's what it takes for you to build what you're supposed to build. You have to be willing. Now you got to ask yourself, are you? Are you consistent with what you say and how you act? I'm over my time for just a few minutes. I don't want to keep it, but I'll share a situation. A lot of you that follow us know that we do a lot of coverage on the network marketing arena, good, bad, indifferent, we cover it. Last week, from a prestigious law firm in San Francisco, I received a 5-page cease and desist letter for one of our blogs. I read through it, looked at it, called my attorney, said, hey, I'm going to text this over to you. I know you're on vacation. I knew that because he was in Destin. Okay, so it's like, just want you to look at it, take care of it next week. He said, what's the problem? I said, I didn't write this. See, consistency with actions and words, you don't have to worry about anything. And I said, dude, this isn't our post. This isn't our blog. I've never said these words. Matter of fact, I haven't said these kind of words in private, let alone public, in a couple, 3 decades. This guy's barking up the wrong tree. But because this guy didn't know who we were, because he's not part of network marketing, he didn't realize when he sent that original letter. From the time he sent that letter to the time we went public, because we're pretty consistent, if you send me a cease and desist letter, unless you put on it, this is private, we're taking it public. So we took it public. People in that company who are distributors in the field, people that are in that company who are executives, wrote to the the founder of that company who lives in Dubai and said, that's not Troy. Troy never hides behind a pseudonym. Troy never fakes anything. It's just Troy, good, bad, or indifferent. We have no doors on the closets. I mean, who else is going to get up here and wear a fuchsia shirt at a peak conference? So, you just get what you get, okay? When you're consistent, your actions and your word, your integrity, all 8 pillars line up. And you never have a problem. I want to go through these real quick because I want these guys to let you guys go. These are purpose questions. I'm going to send this out. You guys will be able to get it. You don't have to write them down. But you've got to be able to drill your purpose in and drill it in deep. And the only way that you can do that is to ask yourself the question, why am I even here? What am I doing Plexus for? What problem am I solving? Who are you solving it for? Will the people really care? What do the people that you want to serve really want? Some of them don't want to lose weight, even when they tell you that, because you met them at McDonald's. Okay? So, you got to know what they believe. You've got to penetrate their heart, not your heart. What am I really selling beyond the Plexus products? I didn't sell life insurance. I sold hope and opportunity. You've got to figure out what you're really selling, what you're changing people's lives for. How will the people find you? What's your greatest strength? What weakness? And like I said, you're not going to get all these down, but we're going to have them. I'm going to close with this. Don't fall for the entitlement trap. Nobody said you were supposed to be a diamond or a double diamond. Nobody said you were going to be rich, you were going to be the first millionaire in Plexus. Nobody said it was always going to go up. You decide what it is you want. It's never going to be fair. Never was, never will be. It ain't never going to be that way. You're going to make your life in Plexus and in the world what you want it to be. It's up to you. I want to thank you guys tonight. This has been awesome.